whatever we did, we always did it together. You never had a separation where 5 guys go one way, 5 guys go another, 5 go another.
Whoever got off the plane first, if that person had to go to the bathroom, we all went to the bathroom because we were like sheep.
There was no better than Bob Clark, who denied it every time, but he'd be sitting at the bar and a guy at the bottom of his drink would find some teeth there. Of course, Clark, you couldn't get away without, you knew it was his at that point because he had to take them back and put them in his mouth.
That's how tight it was. Just little gags, you're waiting for your luggage at the carousel, and all of a sudden you'd see all your clothes coming around. Well, somebody got a hold of your bag first, emptied it, and now you're standing there with people with all your clothes and personal belongings going around the carousel. So it was a lot of fun being with the guys.
The Flyers' unique brotherhood was nurtured by a unique man, Coach Fred Shero.
He was the glue. He says, guys, I will treat you like men until you prove me different. And he was perfect for our mentality, our behavior, everything.
Freddie was ahead of his time, I really believe, in a lot of ways, and the ways exactly is studying video, instilling a system that would give you an opportunity to win.
I believe in precision and discipline, and that's the way I was brought up. Everything has to be exact, everybody has to be on time, everybody has to conform.
I can remember Freddie Shero sending letters to the wives and saying, right now, you're not going to feel number one. He's not going to look at you as you're the primary. The teammates, the team is going to be far more ahead of you. And don't take that personally, he would say, but the rewards will come.
Freddie's hockey brilliance was undeniable, but his personality and methods often left a lot of people wondering.
He put a bucket of water on the training table and left. He never said anything to us.
I remember asking Larry Goodenough, what's Freddie like? And he looked at me and said, I couldn't tell you, I've never met the man.
And Freddie came back in, and he called Ricky McLeish, and he said, Ricky, come over here, I want you to roll up your sleeve. And Ricky went over reluctantly and rolled up his sleeve, and he said, I want you to put your hand in that bucket of water.
And he got the nickname The Fog from just wandering into rooms and suddenly being there in a restaurant or a bar and then suddenly disappearing.
So Ricky put his hand in the bucket of water and he says, now pull it out. Pulled it out. He said, see that hole that's left? And Ricky said, there ain't no hole there, Freddie. Freddie said, well, Ricky, that's how much we're going to miss you when you're gone.
Well, I think he wanted to be mysterious to his players, and I think that was very successful.
He would have us out there doing drills, and then all of a sudden Clark would say, Fred, this makes no sense at all. He said, exactly. I was waiting for somebody to challenge him. So he would challenge us by things he did on the ice, but then what made it better yet, he'd come in and write his one-line slogans on the blackboard before we go out.
The mystery will go forever as to whether Freddie the Fog really was reality or was something that he created. Any of the players who played for him and any of the people who followed the Flyers during those years knows the guy was brilliant. So it's hard to envision a brilliant guy like that actually being in a fog, as they said.
He just had different ways of doing things, and, we would do anything for him. And whatever he said, we believed was gospel, and we went out, and he's a great guy to follow as a leader.
By the end of the 1973 regular season, it was clear that GM Keith Allen had made all the right moves. He had the pieces in place to take Philadelphia to the next level. Only the Minnesota North Stars stood in the way of postseason success. The teams battled to a 5th and deciding game, and in sudden death overtime.
Dornhofer, but he's all alone as he comes back. Dornhofer, and
The guys that were on the line, Lonsberry and McLeish, were hugging me. The fans were screaming, so I assumed right there that the puck went in the net.
It was very, very important for us to take the next step, and we thought we were ready for it, and sure enough, when Dornhofer scored that goal, it was a big moment in our history. And we moved forward at that point.
We went on against Montreal and lost 4-1. But when that series was over, we couldn't wait for the next season to start. We knew we had something that was pretty good.
Traded away 2 years earlier, goalie Bernie Parent rejoined the Flyers. With Parent back in net, the Flyers now had it all. talent, toughness, and a star in goal.
And here come the Flyers, and they're playing this style of hockey which fits the city of Philadelphia perfectly. I mean, it's a blue-collar city, and they're playing a blue-collar style. They're fighting for every inch they can get. They're scrapping, they're clawing, they're upstarts. It all fits into the perfect mix at the time.
A lot of teams dreaded the fact they had to come into Philadelphia and walk down the tunnel in the back and get dressed to go out and face the Philadelphia Flyers.
Our game, a lot of it was intimidation.
If you're tough, you play tough.
It was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
We try to leave a message when we would lose and bang people a little harder just so they remember from the last time.
And we're not through yet. They're still pushing and shoving.
I can remember one time one of the guys started a big brawl in Philadelphia, and all you did was hang on to somebody that you knew so you wouldn't get the crap beat out here.
We caused a lot of havoc on the road. We didn't take a whole lot from anybody. And I think our reputation, it wasn't just me. I mean, it was our whole team.
O'Brien and Barber at it.
And wherever the Flyers went in those days, the buildings were sold out.
Fans are just hollering and screaming at us. I'm sure they'd like to have thrown stuff.
Headline the LA Times. The animals are here. Lock your children up, they're loose.
There's a lot of buildings where we had to be taken into the building on a bus and also taken out of the building on the bus.
Everybody loved to hate us. We loved to be hated. It inspired us even more because going into somebody else's building and taking 2 points from them was all we wanted. We didn't care how, we didn't care where, it didn't matter. We just wanted to win the games.
The brawls were the sexy thing. They got most of the attention, and they were wild and they were crazy. But if you have the guys behind you, guys have your back, so to say, it's going to make the skilled players' jobs easier. And it is important to realize that the brawn with the skill is a lethal combination.
The Flyers' deadly mix produced a first-place finish, victories against the Flames and Rangers in the playoffs, and a matchup in the Stanley Cup Finals with their hated rival.
The Bruins were the dynasty in the making. I mean, they had Bobby Orr, the best player in the game. They had Phil Esposito. They had these great players, and they had dominated.
The Flyers were the underdogs because we'd never been there before. We'd never done it before. And so a lot of things were pretty darn accurate in what was being said.
They hadn't won at Boston Garden since their very first game in the building. I mean, it had been ages. And how are the Flyers ever going to win the series if they couldn't win a game at Boston?
But there's one thing that was left out, and that's to a man. Every player in that room believed we were better than the Boston Bruins and that we were going to win the Cup.
Philadelphia's confidence showed in Game 1, but Bobby Orr's goal in the final minute provided the Bruins with another Boston Garden victory. The Flyers' troubles continued in Game 2 as they fell behind 2-0. But Captain Bobby Clarke changed Philadelphia's fortunes.
Deflected to Flett at the point. With a shot, it's score! Bobby Clarke on the tip in front. It goes to Gilbert's legs for a goal.
Then, with less than a minute left,
Centering pass. Gilbert, he scores! Dupont scores and Paul set up. And Moose gets the shuffle.
Andre Dupont's goal tied the game, sending it to overtime.
And it was really an up and down overtime period. I mean, both teams could have had 3 or 4 goals. I remember Johnny Busick walked in stone cold from the blue line in, and Perron just got his block running. And about 2 minutes later, we come back and
Schultz behind the net. Centers. Flett. Tries to Clarke. Shot! Oh! Rebound! Score! Bobby Clarke scores! Scores the game winner!
The overtime goal turned out to be important. We played them even the first game, we played them even the second game, and as the series was moving on, we were getting stronger.
Inspired by their Game 2 win, the Flyers returned home and dominated Game 3. Coach Shiro knew a Game 4 victory would push the Flyers to the brink of a Stanley Cup championship. He reminded his players of the sacrifices necessary to reach their goal, in classic Freddie style, a chalkboard quote.
Win today,
we will walk together forever. And I think that's a great quote.
And boy, there's not a truer statement than that.
When you get involved in something like that, and certainly at the highest level, it's special.
Schultz and the Flyers responded to the message. They won Game 4, putting a stranglehold on the series.
The 5th game was in Boston. It was a total war. It was really a physical series. So we lose that game 5-1. The next game was back in Philadelphia on a Sunday afternoon.
It was pivotal that we won Game 6 because Game 7 in Boston would have been, a huge climb.
To help ensure victory, the Flyers brought their good luck charm, Kate Smith, to the Spectrum. Her pregame rendition of God Bless America was a tradition started years earlier.
We had a vice president by the name of Lou Scheinfeld. And on his own, without really talking to anybody, he noticed that there were people that were not standing for the national anthem. So he decided to play God Bless America, Kate Smith's recording. And everybody stood up. And, of course, we went on to win the game. So I said to Lou, look, we won the game, so I never want to know when you're doing it. Just do it when you think you should. And he would pick specific games and play God Bless America, and our record was outstanding.
Well, when Kate Smith sang, the roof came off. If you don't get a few chills in you, there's something wrong with you.
Well, I think it electrified pretty well everybody in the whole building. And once the building got going, it gets you going. You're not really nervous, you're more like pumped up.
And shortly after Kate's stirring rendition,
we're in the right-hand corner, and I guess it was against Greg Shepard, and I won the draw back to Moose Dupont.
Dupont throws it and scores!
I was lucky to tip it, and just changed directions enough to screw up the goaltender and go in the net.
The Flyers clung to their precarious lead as Bernie Parent made save after save.
It was in the 3rd period, and we had a face-off in our end, and I skated by Phil Esposito, who was going to take the draw against Oris Kinderchuk, and Phil turned to me and he said, we're not going to score on that guy tonight. That was Bernie Parent, and he instilled that kind of confidence in us. But when you not only instilled it in us, but intimidated a team or put that kind of doubt in a team's mind, that's pretty significant goaltending.
A short while later,
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers have won the
Fans that were outside in the parking lot listening to the games. When the game was over, the doors were opened. And that's the fans that came on the ice, because there was tons of fans. We couldn't really skate around.
People would not leave the building. They would not leave the area. And people from all over Philadelphia were coming down to the building.
You have to bring yourself back to Philadelphia in that time. The Eagles had won in 1960, and then it pretty much gone downhill ever since. The Sixers had one of the worst teams in history in the early 70s, and the Phillies weren't quite to the point where they started to grow into the mid-70s and into the late 70s. And so it was a sports town dying for a championship.
By the next morning, we were driving down to the University of Pennsylvania to meet the drivers in the cars for our parade. And people were just absolutely everywhere.
It turned out to be 2 million people. Just the whole city was just full of joy, It was a beautiful thing.
It was just an incredible feeling. That's the memories you have and treasure.
the Flyers and the city of Philadelphia reveled in the magnificence of a Stanley Cup victory. Yet others felt the champions were a fluke.
It's supposed to take a lot of time to develop a championship team, not 6 or 7 years. And for the Flyers to climb that high, that quickly, I don't think a lot of people believed in them.
But Keith Allen did. If the champs were to repeat